People are more scared of losing money than they are of dying. But a staggering amount of Americans have almost no money. Why is that? The other day I was watching a video by Mr. Who's the Boss where he was talking about the realities of consumerism in America today and how we have kind of let it get out of hand and evolve to a place where it can trap people in this cycle of being broke unless you are able to break out of this system. It's this explosion of consumerism and this rise of subscription services and horrible financial habits that have created this storm that is trapping most of Americans. How did this happen? The impact of consumerism and subscription services on financial habits. Over the last couple of years, there has been this explosion in consumerism and especially around this rise of subscription-based services, which some of them are great and are almost essential, but a lot of them are actually designed to trap you. And this has made a huge, I think, negative impact on a lot of people's financial habits because now there are so many different options of truly great things at our fingertips that it's really, really hard to control ourselves and say no to these things that we are told and sold are essential. Subscription services are literally designed to lure customers in with a free trial, offering something for free. It's 30 days, it's 7 days, it's 14 days. And then once that trial is up, it is designed to make sure that you pay them money every month for the foreseeable future. But I guess the scary part of this is they are very much designed to make it hard for you to cancel those services. And that's not accidental. That is literally how they are designed. It's so easy to sign up. It's really hard to cancel. There's a bunch of strategies on how they do this that I'll talk about in a second, but I literally dealt with this a couple of years ago where I signed up to Planet Fitness because I was going to Planet Fitness and it was easy to sign up. You could sign up right online. But then when I went to cancel, you cannot cancel online. You have to go into a store, and I had moved, so I had to actually physically go there, and I ended up paying for months longer than I needed to just because they made it so inconvenient to cancel my subscription, but it was so simple to sign up. And these subscription services use a ton of different tactics, like limited options where there is no option to buy just 1 month of something, but instead they try to get everybody to buy 1 year's worth, or they will make that so much cheaper that the monthly thing seems like an extremely crazy high price, but the yearly thing seems more reasonable. But at the end of the day, you spend a lot more money. FOMO. A lot of subscription services have this thing where instead of canceling, which you wanted to do, you asked to do, they will try to get you to pause. And they'll list a bunch of reasons, like if you cancel this, you may miss out on these things in the future, trying to give you this sense of like almost guilt for canceling your subscription. The switcheroo, or at least that's what I'm gonna call it. That's actually happened to me like literally yesterday. I wanted to try these Groons, right? I heard about them online. I thought they were cool. They're gummies with a bunch of like fruits and vegetables inside them. I thought it would be good for Laura. She likes to eat them. So I went to their website to check it out. If I wanted to try it just once, it would be $63. But if I get a subscription instead, it would only be $47. If I wanted to do a double subscription, I would save even more. So about a month ago, I bought a subscription, and I did that because I didn't want to pay 20% more than not buying a subscription, and I figured I would just cancel after, but I totally forgot to cancel it. And now I was just charged $108, and my second package was just sent out when I still have not finished this first one. So while I do like these and I do think we'll eat them, I have to like go through now and cancel my subscription. Instead of just buying one of these to test out and see if I like it, I ended up now having 4 bags of these, which is not what I wanted to do, but that somehow happened. Then there's double dipping by companies like Amazon. So Amazon used to be cheaper than like going to the store, at least for some things. And now it's becoming more expensive as it becomes bigger, because not only are they charging us a subscription, but they're also charging a fee to everybody who sells on there. There's fees throughout like the entire process. So things that used to be cheaper, as they charge both the sellers and the buyers more money, are generally becoming more expensive. There's also examples like Uber, where it used to be a cheaper way of getting around, and it has become more and more expensive as a company starts off cheap so that they can gain market share, they can become an essential to people, they can become a way of drivers to earn money, and then as they gain most of the market share, they can jack up the prices because they've already killed most of the competition. And that's what continually happens to us by more and more stores, where they start off based on creating a great service, and then as they become a bigger company, they are forced to make more money, and they'll just do whatever it takes, getting exactly the most amount of money they possibly can out of you, the consumer, by charging the most amount of money that they can and squeezing everything out of us. But trying to just flirt over with right to the limit of what we're willing to pay. So that's all one of the reasons people are starting to go broke in America. It's because you have all of these different subscriptions for your music, for, delivery, for Amazon, for Groons, whatever it is, your cell phone plan, your internet, everything is on this monthly basis. And your baseline for just staying alive and functioning as a human continues to go up by $20, $40, $100. And if you continually add a new subscription every month or every few months, just your cost of being alive continues to go up and up and up. And that can really be a trap for a lot of people. Like, a lot of people spend way too much money on their phone plan. That's why I switched to Helium Mobile. It's just $20 a month. I like it. There's a link down below. But it's not just consumerism and subscription services. There are a couple other reasons as well. Inflation. Inflation is sometimes called like the silent thief. It's really a tax on everybody who has money, because if you have $100, the longer you hang on to that $100, the less things you'll be able to buy with that $100. $100 might buy you X amount of groceries now. If you look at 5 years ago or 10 years ago, it might have gotten you 10, 20, 30% more groceries for that same amount of money. So the longer that we hang on to money, the less valuable it's worth. That's also why I personally never keep my money in a checking account or savings account that doesn't earn at least like 4 or 5%. But the thing about inflation is it most impacts those who are living paycheck to paycheck. Because as prices rise for, your rent, your utilities, your groceries, the interest that you're paying on your car payment, most people's income is not rising at the same rate as inflation. This is one of the reasons why it seems like you never have enough money, is because life is just more expensive. Then there's also more blatant forms of inflation called shrinkflation, where the things we are buying may not go up in price, but they may become smaller. This has happened with a bunch of popular things like Gatorade, where they have actually designed a smaller package and they will put less, Gatorade or chips or whatever it is into those packages, but charge the same amount. So you might be paying the same amount for something, but you're getting 10, 20, 30% less stuff inside of that. And that's just another reason why your money does not go as far as it used to. The gap between wages and housing costs. As I'm sure you're aware, the prices of housing has gone up drastically in just like the past 5 years, the past 10 years. It's absolutely insane, but wages have not gone up nearly at the same rate. So as the prices for homes, healthcare, education continue to soar, minimum wage and wages in general have not nearly gone up enough to match. And even though some people think that, just raising minimum wage will help with some of these things, a lot of times the companies who raise those minimum wages will just raise the prices of their products as well to cover those, so that they never end up being the loser, and it's the consumer who ends up paying more for those goods and services. And while yes, the employees are getting more, the company is never going to be the one taking the hit for that. It's always going to be the consumer, and that just makes the cost of living higher, which means that more money that people are making is not going to get them as far. If we look at the history of minimum wage, for instance, somebody making minimum wage, in the 1980s, their purchasing power would be drastically higher than somebody making minimum wage today. Multiple jobs. So most people now cannot survive off of one income in America. And this is a shift from what our parents were like or our grandparents were like, where it was possible for one person to go out, work one job, and then be able to afford to feed their families and provide, a house for their family that was, relatively decent at just a normal job. But nowadays, that is almost unheard of. In fact, most people now need to earn more money. They need to work a side hustle. If they're married, as opposed to what it was, 50 or 100 years ago, now both people will need to work in order just to survive. And a lot of that is, again, because wages have not kept up at all with the cost of housing and, just the general cost of living. I actually give some different side hustles that I've used in the past in my upcoming newsletter. If you guys haven't checked that out, there's a link down below. It's free. I just try to provide a lot of great information on how to save more money, how to earn more money. So I would definitely check that out, because having a side hustle now is almost essential unless you're earning, at least $100,000, more like $200,000 a year in a lot of America. It's a cycle. No, really, being broke costs more money. When you're broke, you're living paycheck to paycheck, you're slightly behind on your bills, it is more expensive just to exist. Late fees, overdraft fees, and even fraud cost Americans $577 annually. A lot of times this happens to the people who can least afford to pay it. When you're late paying your utility bill or your credit card bill and you have a fee that comes up, well, you were late because you couldn't afford to pay those, and therefore adding more money on top of that is a cycle that can get you trapped in paying interest on just surviving. That's something that those who have their finances under control and are earning more money than they are spending don't have a deal with. It's almost like a tax on those who don't have their finances under control. Then there's this American dream lifestyle thing, even though a lot of Americans have, kind of given up on the dream, honestly, of owning a home and all that kind of stuff that was the original American dream. They now have this new idea of the American dream. I don't know, it's different than what I think, but it's this idea of like, treat yourself and you deserve this and you work hard for your money, so, enjoy your life. And, like, I work hard, so I'm entitled, to be able to have nice stuff. And so that starts this cycle of working 5 to 6 days a week, the best parts of those days, for money, making somebody else wealthy. And then on the nights and the weekends, since you're so burned out from making somebody else rich, that you have to spend money on yourself to make it feel like it was worth putting all this time and effort in and unwinding after burning yourself out. And a lot of times that blowing off steam or recovery comes at the cost of spending money. You're going out for drinks with your friends, you're going out to restaurants, you're ordering Uber Eats because you're too tired to cook. Another one of those subscriptions and things that are just drastically overpriced when you look at the price of like cooking it at home versus going out versus having it delivered. It's absolutely crazy. Then you have the bigger things, the weekend trips because you just need to get away. The new expensive car because you can't afford a house, but you can afford a car payment, so you have a brand new car. You have a brand new phone, you have brand new clothes, all things that, since you can't afford the big thing, you make yourself feel better by buying all the little things. Except for most people, if they were honest, they can't actually afford those, but they feel like they should because they deserve it. But I have a question, do they? Well, I had this realization a few years ago that I was in this exact same boat, right? I saw my parents had a house and they had, a couple cars and a nice house, and they were able to go on trips and do stuff like that. And I'm like, I've been working hard for a while. I feel like I should be able to get a house. I want a brand new car. I want to be able to go on trips and stuff. And I had this temptation that I could do that because I had access to credit. I did finally get a raise at my job, so I could spend that extra money and spend it on these things because I felt like I deserved it. But then I kind of took a step back and I, asked myself, do I deserve it? No, because my parents have been working for longer than I had been alive at that point. They were at a point where they could afford those things because they had put in way more work than I had. I think that's what happens with a lot of younger people nowadays, is they see their parents or their grandparents or their older friends enjoying this lifestyle and they think they should have it at 25, at 30. When the people who are enjoying those things and can actually afford them have been working, 10, 20, 30 years longer than they are. And that really helped me reframe that at this beginning stage of my life, I should not be spending that extra money that I make. I should be living on, kind of relatively the same amount of money that I was before I got this raise, and instead taking that extra money and investing it into buying my own freedom. But a lot of times we see the end result of somebody else and think that we should deserve to get that earlier, which you really do not. At least I didn't. And I feel like that's how a lot of people get trapped. It's being here and thinking they deserve to be somewhere else where they haven't put in the same amount of work. And that reminds me, working hard is another trap that gets a lot of people stuck. Just because you're working hard does not mean you deserve anything. It doesn't mean you make a lot of money. Some of the hardest working people I know have the worst finances, and that's because working hard doesn't mean anything anymore, honestly. It's working smart, it's working at the right thing. It's kind of like where saving money doesn't really help you unless you do something with that money. You cannot save your way to being a millionaire, but you can invest your way to being a millionaire. Being the hardest working person in the world at a $10 an hour job, being a, just average run-of-the-mill person who has a skill that is much, much more valuable and can earn $100 an hour is 10 times more effective with the exact same amount of work. And that's why working harder is very seldom the answer, but instead working and investing to give yourself skills that are actually worth something is really how people make progress. It's how I made progress. I used to earn $10 an hour cleaning because my skill was worthless. Anybody can do that. Anybody can go into an office building and clean the office building, empty the trash, vacuum. Anybody can do that. Then I started to invest years and hours and nights and weekends and thousands of dollars into learning skills that were actually valuable to people. Guess what? My income went up. That's what happened. That's what you need to do. It is not working harder, it is gaining more valuable skills. And nobody just inherently knows those skills. You have to sacrifice, you have to learn, you have to study, you have to do all that stuff that you hated doing at school, but doing it for a specific valuable skill will actually help your life much, much more than school probably will. So for most people, that's a great place to start. Another great place to start is creating a budget. There's a bunch of different budgeting systems, whatever one works for you, but if you don't know where your money is going, you will not have any money. That's why, people at all earning brackets are still living paycheck to paycheck. It's because they just earn more money, they just spend more money. So if you don't know where it's going, it's gonna go away. And then while you start to track that stuff, you'll realize all the subscriptions, all the places that you're wasting your money, and you can cut those out. You can start to save more money, build up your emergency fund, put it in a high interest savings account, begin to lower that financial stress on yourself so that you can study and earn more high value skills. You can get a promotion, you can get a step up, you can move to a different company. And that's what really begins this cycle of breaking out of this paycheck to paycheck thing. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, thanks for watching. There's another video right here that's very good according to the YouTube algorithm. So I'm gonna leave.